Welcome back, viewers. Your host of the day, Ankur Saini, is back with our registered migration agent, Saurabh Smar. How are you, Saurabh?
Good, thanks, Ankur. Really happy today. Friday, and no more restrictions. The lockdown is a little bit over, so can't be happy. Can't be happier.
Can't be happy. It seems like that you're actually going for a meeting with your mates,
Absolutely.
right? Somewhere in city, meeting with
Yeah.
your
So
friends, having a couple of
absolutely.
drinks.
Now we get to go out. So why not? You know what I mean? It's been a while since we were actually waiting for this kind of news. Finally, we can actually go out. So
Yeah,
it,
no, I can understand this. I'm actually eager to go out as well and wants to really meet with my mates. But
uh,
anyways, Uh, viewers, this today's session, if you actually followed our previous sessions, we always talk about, like our registered migration agent, always talk about the employment and the employer nominations in like sponsored visas, in which the employer is actually involved. So we today the session is all about the visas, which is subclass 482, subclass 494, subclass 186, and subclass 407, which our registered migration agent, Mr. Saurabh Smar, is going to give us the idea in brief that what exactly these visas are and how what's the eligibility criteria and how these visas are going to create a sort of miraculous impact on the current situation for those who are actually struggling for permanent residency. Saurabh, thank you very, very much for choosing this particular topic. All right.
uh,
We always talk about GSM. We always talk about the other visas. But yes, thank you very much. So we'll be starting the session with recent migration updates. If we'll be having anything, then please do grace us with the information, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, Ankur. You actually described our today's session in a really spectacular way. You know, because it is going towards, say, the employment. Employer-sponsored visas is turned out to be the actually prominent factor in 2020 and 21 financial year. As you can see, the general skill migration has actually gone down. So pretty much a lot of people are actually going to be talking about different employer-sponsored visas and all. And as we can see, we have seen like a really good number of approvals and grants coming through for 482, 186, and all these employer sponsored visas. And there's a lot of employers who would like to retain those employees for a long term basis as well. So this is the way I would say the future is actually for employer-sponsored visas. If you want to get permanent residency, employer-sponsored, employer nomination schemes and the other regional employer-sponsored visas are actually the way. And in terms of recent migration updates, there were actually rumors that there is going to be a round, that the round for October happened. But since we actually have not got any updates or any information from the department itself, and there hasn't been any information from various migration agents, because we do have a group of more than 2,000 migration agents, and they have not actually provided us with any. None of them actually have received any invitation. So basically seems like there might be a chance where the invitation, where there was no round happened at all in the month of October.
Hmm.
And whereas, as we already discussed previously, the month of September, the invitation round that happened, immigration has already posted out all those kind of requirements there. So the people, received invitation at even 65 points. Those were like medical laboratory scientists. And they've also provided the date of effect for those invitations as well. So it is available for everyone to actually go and check. If you go to the invitations round and look into the last invitation round, there was the details published on the website are actually for the September round. And in terms of other state updates, so we are still waiting for states to actually provide us with their requirements of what the new requirements will be for different state nominations, such as South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland. And recently, New South Wales, they said that they will start actually inviting people, but they probably be only going to look into ICT, engineering, healthcare sectors. So those are the prominent sectors. And we have also seen few migration agents have actually received an ROIs for different occupation except medical practitioners, such as an economist, a business analyst, and a software engineers, and all, depending upon how crucially, they are actually working with the COVID-19 projects, etc. So those are the recent updates that we have actually seen through. And without wasting our viewers' time, I just want to quickly let everyone know that I'm actually a registered migration agent. My migration agent registration number is 1802044, and my phone number is 0430081804. And if you do have any questions or anything, just feel free to ask us, and we will try to um, answer these questions by the end of the session. And the purpose of this session is also just for an education purpose only, and provided some of the information provided might be helpful in your scenario, or it might help your friends or family. So I would recommend our viewers that if this information is not helpful to you, probably you can actually share this video with your friends and family, and it might be helpful for them. So without wasting much time, let's dive on to the first employer sponsored visa that we are talking. So there will be subclass 482 visa.
Subclass
So
42 visa.
yeah, and how it was previously known as 457, which is a temporary skill shortage visa, TSS. That's it is known as, and it is called a short-term skill. So it's a short-term stream, medium-term stream, and it also has the labor agreement. So labor agreement is for the big organizations, even for the mining organization, big companies, who actually have a certain kind of agreement with the government that we will be hiring 100 or 200 people, and these are the exemptions that we need for our people. Then our people don't need to pass English test, they don't need skill assessment, they don't need qualification, so they can bring 100 200 people like that. That is under labor agreement stream. So those kind of the streams, they still work under DAMA streams as well. People already aware of that, like a designated area migration agreement. So those are the streams that are actually in place. And another thing is with the short term stream of 482 is your occupation must be in the STSOL list, which is a short-term skill occupation list, and then you probably be able to apply for 482 up to the maximum period of 2 years. Okay, and if your occupation is in the ROL list or medium to long-term list, you can get up to 4 years. So these are pretty much the basic differences. And if you are actually a passport holder of Hong Kong, and then you probably can get up to the next 4 or 5 years. So they have Australian government has actually have a special treaty with Hong Kong people, so they can get up to 5 years instead of the 4 year period. So the basic requirement for 482, most importantly, is first you need to have an employer who's willing to sponsor you. Secondly, the employer must have adequate amount of finances that they should have. They will be well equipped to actually sustain and have you as an employee for the next 2 to 4 years. Thirdly, that they must have done proper labor market testing unless and international trade obligation applies, such as if you are a citizen of Vietnam and there's Canada and there's a couple of other countries as well in the list, you actually do not have to advertise your position, because that means that you are actually exempt from those provisions of being putting your advertisement for the role. So there are some exemptions available as well. Not many people were actually aware of these kind of exemptions, and we have actually used these exemptions successfully as well in our cases with our clients themselves. So and for the applicant themselves, so it's a 3-step visa application. Okay, so first of all is a standard business sponsorship, and the second one is a nomination application, and then third one is a visa application. So for the standard business sponsorship, what the government wants to see is how your business is actually trading and how it is trading financially as well. So they probably look into your last 4 business activity statements, or if the business is actually is quite new, then you would actually have to provide a business plan. And that's so those are the things that you can use to get SPS approval. And we have seen recently, like ourselves personally, we received an SPS approval in less than 24 hours. So that means that the TSS team is actually back on track the way they were pre-COVID, and they are processing these applications really quickly and efficiently as well. So that is the SPS part, and SPS is actually valid for 5 years. But if you are a new business, been operating less than a year, they probably first grant you only for a year to see how you go. And so these are just the basic eligibility criteria for that one. And then moving on to nomination. So nomination is actually the most important part, and with the SPS, it costs approximately around $330. something, sorry, $420. That's a government fees, and they do tend to change as well. So make sure when you do launch the application, make sure you check what the fees are at that point of time. When it comes to nomination application is actually the most important aspect of an 482 visa, and it requires a lot of information and a lot of reports and stuff. And when it comes to so how we do it with the 482 nomination is, they would first of all they want to see how you have done a labor market testing. Have you tested your local market, and have you attempted to actually look for opportunities for an Australian citizen or a permanent resident? That's what the government wants to see. If you have actually, and then how you actually have to prove that is, you put an advertisement for the role in the 3 different job platforms. Either and that can be either a print media, and the most important is it has to be done on a Job Active, which is a government website. And apart from Job Active, you can go to Job Active Plus, Indeed, and Jora, and Job Active, Indeed, and Seek, etc. But Job Active must be there. You would have to post advertisement on Job Active, and you have to run that advertisement for at least the period of 28 days. And after 28 days, during that period you do conduct your interviews and stuff, and you do conduct an interview of the existing staff member if the visa applicant is already working with the company. And then that's how you actually go through the labor market testing, where you actually provide with the government, sometimes people do find a better candidate, and if they cannot find a better candidate, then they explain to the department that what steps you took to actually test the local market, and why you need this particular person, because the skills that the applicant have that was not available in the local market. So this is the labor market testing in a nutshell. Then moving on, you would actually also have to look into the market salary report as well, like how you have actually tested, how you have actually obtained the annual income for the visa applicant to be particular amount, say for example 60,000, how you have done that. So you would actually have to provide that kind of information as well, that look, this is the I have done this. If I'm earning, if I'm an employer and I would like to give my employee $60,000 a year, I have done this. There is an award summary for that. There is an advertisement. There's a lot of things that are actually in place. So these are the kind of market salary reports that we can actually work on. And then you would also, employer needs to prove to the department with evidences and with the statements how important and how genuinely they need this employee for the 482 visa, that they need this person to be employed with them for the next 2 to 4 years, what projects they will be working on, what are the core elements of the business, how this position fits into this core elements of the business. So those are kind of the things that, for example, you're not going to sponsor a software engineer in a restaurant. So in the same way, they need a chef in a restaurant because they go alongside with each other. So, and then you would other documents, other documents and information such as, how the position fits in the organization structure. So where is the director, where is the other manager, and where is the nominee lies in the business. So those are the things. And so that's pretty much what a nomination application is. And depending upon the business turnover, employers also have to pay SAF levy, which is a Skilling Australia fund. If their turnover is less than $10 million, they would actually have to pay $1,200 per year times the number of years they would like to sponsor a foreign employee. If the turnover is more than $10 million, it's $1,800 per year. So for bigger companies, it's tend to be a little expensive as well. So it can cost up to more than 7,000 something if you're doing for 4 years for a company which have a turnover of less than $10,000, $10 million. So once you get the successful nomination outcome, then or you can still lodge a visa application for 482 as well. And in most circumstances, currently the government is actually processing 482s on a priority basis for the occupation which are listed in priority occupation list, PMSOL list. So that is what and then obviously you would apply for a 482 visa, which is a normal visa application. You would have to have a 2 years of work experience. That is very important. A lot of people do get confused about the work experience criteria. And the 2 years of work experience must be relevant in your related field. And you can also use a your pro rata experience as well. So for example, they look into 2 years full-time equivalent part-time experience. That means that 2 months part-time equals to 1 month full-time. So you can actually combine that kind of experience as well. And um, and there are some occupations which are actually trade occupations, whether so in some cases the case officer, there is no requirement to do a skill assessment, but for some occupation there is a requirement. If you have, they, depending upon what country or passport you have, where you have obtained your qualifications, those are the factors that come in place. I would say consult your migration agent, registered migration agent, and check whether you do need a skill assessment or you do not. In some circumstances, a skill assessment can also be a discretionary. That means the case officer can request if they want to. But in most circumstances, and sometimes they do request in 50% chances, but most of the times they just let it go. So that is something afforded to in a nutshell, pretty much. I think I've covered pretty much. Ankur, what do you think?
Well, yes, I think so because exactly not having the idea. But the question which I really wanted to ask here, 482, and the leading pathway uh, towards permanent residency, like the way you actually just said that there are two streams.
Hmm.
Exactly, like there are three streams. One is STSOL, second is the medium term to long terms like list, and then the labor market, right? So viewers needs to know that, like, after 482, what's the permanent residency pathway? That's the crucial aspect which we really need to know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually a really good question, because no one, people would like to look for permanent options. No one just wants to spend time working for an employer, and then turn out to be they don't have any much options available at all. So for 482, if you are on MLT SSL occupation, and then you probably be able to go through the 186 direct entry. So 186 direct entry and 186 temporary residence transition stream. So there are the two streams that are available for 186. Plus, there is another labor agreement available as well. But let's just focus on the first two, because those are the important ones, the one that people normally look into all the time. Provided people normally have, sometimes, if you do have 3 years of full-time experience, you're working with the employer, and you are on a 482 visa, you don't actually have to wait to go on a 186 TRTS. You can go 186 direct entry, provided you have 3 years of a full-time work experience, not part-time equivalent. It's full-time, completely 38 hours per week, proper pay slips and everything. And if you do have that, competent English and skills assessment, you probably be able to apply for 186 direct entry. But if you don't have those kind of stuff, you recently started working for an employer, then you can go through the TRTS stream as well, where you actually have to work for an employer for the next 2 to 3 years. And after that, you can go through the 186 and TRTS option. So that is direct entry for PR pathway. But plus, say for example, if your occupation is in STSO list, which is a state-sponsored occupation list, and say for example, you did get a 482 visa, and your employer actually falls in a regional area, and you get to have a 3 years of work experience, you cannot apply for a 186 anymore, because that's not available for other occupations. But you can actually apply for 186, sorry, 494 employer regional sponsored visa, where you would actually have to work for that employer for 3 years. Yeah, and then you probably be able to apply for 191. It's similar to 491, but it is employer sponsored. So you get the same benefits, you get Medicare, all other benefits of a 491 visa, but it is just an employer sponsored 494. And look, currently the WA is actually regional, Adelaide is regional, Gold Coast is regional, Canberra is regional. Pretty much there's a lot of regional areas. Most of the employers, they always have locations in regional areas as well. So they probably might be, you started working on a 482 with an STSOL occupation, and then you can actually move on to the 494 as well, provided you have 3 years of work experience. So those are the pathways that are actually available from 482 if someone's actually looking for their permanent visa options. And also, Ankur, I would like to bring this to the attention as well. As you know, Canberra is doing their matrix points and stuff. They're doing those invitations. And currently, like in the last month or so, they actually have they critically inviting people who are actually on a 482 visas.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's something very strange.
Yeah, so they are actually, because if you are on a 482 visa, provided you already have a 1 year of work experience and you already have another 2 years left on your visa, that means you do satisfy the state requirements as well. So it is
Mm.
actually a win-win situation for people on both sides. So that was something, and then so that is what a 482 visa is. It's a temporary skill shortage visa, employer sponsored. And if you do have any doubts or anything, any people have any doubts or any questions, whether they are actually eligible for it, whether their employer is eligible for it, whether the employer has the capacity to actually sponsor someone, they can get in touch with us, and then we can actually explain them and their employer how things works. And yeah, so that's pretty much what the 482 visa is. And most of the a good point is, if you look into Lygon Street and the big restaurants in there, big Italian restaurants, Indian restaurants and all, they do have, most of them, like it is 70 to 80% of them have chefs or cooks working on a 457 or a 482 visas, because it's hard to get this kind of skill set from the local market. So that's what this visa is in a nutshell.
So it seems like that your next plan is going to Lagon Street tonight.
Obviously, maybe, let's see. And then we probably can provide, employ the restaurants there some kind of assistance with the questions and stuff.
Exactly. Well, viewers, if you'll be having any sort of questions with regards to your personal like situation and or related to 482 visa, please do ask us on the platform, or else you can even call to Saurabh at 04300 81804. So as Saurabh said, 482 is a temporary skill shortage visa which leads to permanent residency pathway for MLTSSL list occupation holders, 186 TRTA stream or 186 direct entry, or for the occupations which is in short term list. Yes, after spending their 3 years on 482 visa, they can even go for the pathway which is subclass 494 and then further subclass 191. Now, coming back to again the same employer sponsored visas, there is another subclass which is sort of just mentioned 494. So, Saurabh, this 482 visa and 494 visa is like what exactly, like two apples but in two different plates? Same apples but in
Um,
two different plates?
you can call them. You can call one a regional apple as well if you want to, and
Like,
one
mhm.
of the apple is actually a golden apple. So I would say 494. It could also be it can be considered as a golden apple, because you work there with an employer for 3 years in a regional area, and on
Mhm.
the third year you're actually eligible to apply for 191. So pretty much it is a golden apple, taking you straight onto the PR pathway. You're getting Medicare benefits as well. You don't actually have to get your private insurance and stuff. So those are the things that are sorted with 494 visa. Um, and when it comes to 494, you would need to have 3 years of work experience, and 3 years of work experience, same like 186, needs to be full-time experience. You need to have a skill assessment. And the best part is, because 494 is for people, like, you can have an occupation in STS or list, because that's why you are actually applying for this visa. Because if you had an occupation in MLTSSL, you probably be looking for 186 direct entry option. Do you know what I mean? If this option is kind of for people who have their occupation which falls in STSOL list or regional occupation list. So those are the kind of people, who actually apply for this visa. And another thing is, just want to quickly say, there are some complex cases, where some people have visas, cancellations, refusals, and stuff. Who people are sitting on a bridging visa C. They've been working in Australia on a federal court, appeal and stuff. There's a lot of stuff like that going on. So what this visa does is, it actually, they can apply for. So these visas, they can, how those people have to leave the country, and then only they can apply for this visa. In some circumstances, as you know, that they actually, some people, if you leave the country on a bridging visa C or bridging visa E, you would actually have to wait for the 3 years. There is an exclusion period that you have to wait. But 494, 491, 186, you don't actually have to do those exclusion period. Not many people are actually aware of that. So this is a very big handy tip for people. So always, check your status, and then see with the migration agents, whether the exclusion period would apply in your circumstances or not, if you actually have a complex situation like that. We have helped like so many people, in this kind of situation. As you know, the other day I was discussing a case with you, who are we actually currently helping out right now as well. So there are a lot of things that can be done, etc., in this kind of scenario.
Okay. Would you mind? Okay. Would you mind actually give us a bit of the case study? The case study which you just talked about, like the person who was holding the bridging visa B, oh sorry, C and E, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And
All right.
then,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll just give you a quick glimpse, a quick snapshot of what the case study is. So, for example, a person A who has been in Australia had a previous 187 RSMS refusal 4 or 5 years ago,
Hmm.
currently, and then the AAT was affirmed, and now they are sitting at Federal Circuit Court. And the Federal Circuit Court is also taking longer than usual because of and they pretty much have no chance of actually getting their winning that case as well. So they actually come to us to look for some options, like what should we do now. And the person has been working in their field from the last 3 years, but they're working on a bridging visa C. Okay, so most importantly, people need to be aware of that when you are claiming, you cannot claim points for your Australian employment if you are working on a bridging visa C. Okay, that's a very important point. So that means that applicant actually wanted to apply for 491 visa, but when I actually told them that, look, you cannot claim points because you were working on a bridging visa C. So they were surprised because their previous migration agent didn't tell them that, as per the regulations, you cannot claim those points. But what we did is we actually carve out another pathway for them. We cannot use that experience for a point tested visa, but we can use that experience towards the employer sponsored visas. So what we did is we then carve out, and they were working in a regional area as well. So we then actually advised them about the 494 employer sponsored visa. We got their standard business sponsorship approved in a day. Then we launched the RCB, the regional certifying body application, then the nomination, and then the visa application. It's just at the time of visa application, the person would need to leave the Australia, apply for the visa, wait until the visa outcome, and then come back with their 494 visa grant. Because it's an employer sponsored visas, government knows they need these people for them to work in their business, and business have already been adversely affected due to COVID-19. So could be the case, that's why the immigration is actually processing employer sponsored visas quickly. So it's a win-win situation for us as well as for our client. If they would have left on for bridging visa C, they would have actually had a 3-year ban. But because we actually provided them with an option where they don't actually have to go through the ban and all that stuff, they will be able to come back on a timely manner without having to face any travel restrictions on them or a ban.
So that is actually a classic example to understand the law properly and then implement it,
Absolutely. So
right?
this is like a live example that we have actually
Mm.
tested out, and it worked, and we were quite confident when we actually wanted to test this out as well.
So I would like to say this to our viewers, that there is no loop. There is no loophole. Everything is on the basis of rules and regulations. And yes, for most of the problems, there is always a solution, provided that you're actually seeking the advice from the registered migration agent. If you're having any sort of questions, you can call Saurabh Smar on the number which is 04300 Saurabh, furthermore, please.
Perfect. Okay, so moving forward, let's quickly glimpse through now. So as we discussed already about the other visas, 482, you need 2 years of work experience and stuff. So people do come to me like, what about if I don't have 2 years of work experience, but my employer is willing to sponsor me? What should I do now? I've been working from the last 1 year on my 485 visa in my nominated field with my employer, and I don't have 2 years of work experience. Can you help me with what I can do? So then the subclass 407 training visa comes in place. It's a 3-step process. Sponsorship, and the sponsorship is not a standard business sponsorship. This sponsorship is different than a 482. It's a temporary activity sponsor. Okay, and then we do the nomination application. There is no LMT required for that because it is a training visa. Okay, that what we are saying is that the applicant is actually at this level and the employer want him to get to this level. So the between them is actually the gap, the skills gap we have. So those are the gaps that we will actually cover up during the training visa with the proper training plans and all those kind of information in place. So that is what the training visa is. You can get this visa up to 18 months. And during that period, sometimes that experience gained, depending upon how your training plan has been drafted, you can actually use that kind of experience towards a 482 visa. In some cases, department actually do check in what kind of training plan was it, how the training was conducted, etc. So those are the things that you need to be certain about. And 407 training visa is actually a good way for people. Sometimes they can go to the 482 and other visas, but I would say is any kind of visas and all, make sure you do take professional advice. And then, because people do come to us when they do mess things up, and then they come back to us and they ask us, hey, can you fix this for us? And then when they only have few days left in their visa and stuff. So I would say be very careful, be very mindful. These visas, they seem very easy when you go on to read their website and stuff, but when you're trying to start obtaining documents and filling up those lengthy forms and stuff, then you probably be wondering, I should have taken some kind of assistance. Sometimes people, Ankur, they make a mistake when they do put an advertisement themselves. Sometimes they don't put salary, they don't put location, they don't put the correct title, they might miss out some duties. Those are the things. And based on that, immigration can actually easily refuse their nomination. Subsequently, their visa application will also be refused. So can you see that? There are so many things in place. One thing gets refused, the second gets refused, the third gets refused. You don't get the money back. It's all refund. It never gets refunded. You lose like tens or 15,000s of dollars. So be very careful. It's a matter of a lot of money in there as well, and a lot of effort. And don't forget the time. Money can be
Exactly.
earned, but the time is gone. You cannot get that time back.
So if you are treated by a professional like perfectionist, it's always advisable to go and seek the advice from the registered migration agent. Yes, we know that couple of subclass visas applications are fairly easy, but technically it depends. Like there are a lot of complexity is there indulged in those subclass applications. So it's always good to just seek the advice, and then if you wish, you can do it by your own. uh, Subclass 186 direct entry, we've already talked about this just a while ago, but it was in very short. So let's talk about this subclass because this is, I think, a direct permanent residency, right?
Yes. So I think what I would say is, if a lot of viewers, if they're watching, if you are an IT people, I've seen a lot of IT people, who come from overseas, they already have 2 to 3 years of work experience overseas. Sometimes ACS don't assess that kind of experience, but they do have kind of documentation available. And if you do have those kind of experience, plus you have some experience in Australia, and your employer is willing to sponsor you, 186 direct entry is a really good option for you. And because we did recently for our client, you don't actually need hire 8 each NATI PT, those PY, is nothing required like that at all. So my client came to me straight away when he came to Australia. He was studying in his second last semester, and he asked me, he said, like, look, this is what my qualifications are, and I'm working with my employer. Can you tell me what will be my PR pathway? I would have told him that, do professional year, do that, do NATI, do PY, and all that, stuff, where he would have wasted so much time and money as well. So I told him, I said, look, is your employer willing to sponsor you? Then he organized a meeting with me and his employer, and I asked his employer straight up, would you be interested in sponsoring him on a 186? And he said yes. So as soon as he finished his 485 visa, we got his Australian qualification, and then we lodged his 186 direct entry nomination with the employer. And in 4 weeks' time, we actually received the nomination approval. And the client was surprised because he didn't have to sit in a PTE test. He didn't have to go through NATI. He didn't have to do professional year. He didn't have to do all those kind of things, but his friends were doing. And he got them permanent residency way before that, and in less than 4 weeks. Doesn't have to wait for points, doesn't have to wait for state nomination, nothing like that at all. So there are so many easy options available as well. And if you don't know, there probably the chance where you might fit into this easy option. Maybe you have not actually explored those options yet.
Hmm. So what was the occupation, Saurabh,
So
for
that was a software engineer. So there's a lot of
software?
software engineers, developer programmers, analyst programmers. business analysts, system analysts. They are actually in Australia right now who can get through this pathway. They are working for their employers, and in most circumstances, employers are willing to provide sponsorship and nomination. And I would say it is actually a really good, easy pathway. Go with this option. And if your employers do have a doubt as well, they can actually, I'm happy to have a chat with their employers. I'm really persuasive in talking to their employers and get them to, sponsor you. So which is actually a good win-win situation for us, for yourself, and for your employer as well. So they don't actually have to look for another employee down the track.
Yeah. So viewers, we actually talked about the employer nomination visas. First one was 482 visa, in which you do require for at least 2 years of experience. For 186 direct entry, you require 3 years of experience plus the skills assessment, and 494 3 years of experience plus your skills assessment as well, which further leads to 191 permanent residency pathway. Anything else, Saurabh, would you like to add in before finishing the session today?
So only thing I would say is a lot of the times, employers, if you are actually going through this pathway as well, make sure you get your employer, let them know at the start itself that look, it would require an extensive documentation. Sometimes we would have to look for your financials, your business bank accounts and stuff, so that when your employers start the process, they don't want to step back when it comes to asking for those kind of confidential information as well. And so these things is better if you do actually confirm with your employer, clarify those stuff right away at the start rather than later. So this is the kind of advice that I would say. And seek these kind of options, because employer nomination schemes and all these visas are actually better options than in the current scenario when you compare them to 189, 190 and other scenario. Otherwise, as you can see, every IT occupation, every IT person, whoever do professionally at 90 and 8 each, will say that 90 points. Pretty much everyone will say that 90 points. It's gonna create a threshold that pretty much everyone is. There will be like thousands of people sitting there. It's the one who with 95 or 100 points will get the invitation. And how they get 95 and 100? With the employment.
Mm. So, viewers, there is no harm asking if you're actually employed, and if you're actually really wanted to go for the pathway which is related to employment. Just simply ask your HR manager or the manager next to you that if they are actually interested to hire you or to take your services for a longer time. And this pathway can give you the miraculous results. As said, permanent residency is something which is a dream everyone is after. And by saying this, I think we are not having today any live questions. Seems like our viewers must be actually enjoying the sunshine, and they are even eager to meet with their mates.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely. Today,
so
as the Daniel Andrews said, people probably be looking up to their higher shelf and
exactly.
getting on the beers.
So yeah, and thank you very very much, viewers. And that's it. We'll see you next Friday with a new session. And hopefully we are going to post what would be the subject we are going to talk about on this coming Monday itself.
And Ankur, I think let me see. Just give me one moment. I think we got around 3 to 4 questions that people have actually asked. Let me have a look because it's taking a bit of time to load.
Okay, yes, exactly. We are still in the live session. Seems like I'm
Yes.
actually in a hurry to go and see my mates and have a couple of drinks. We are back.
So
Sorry,
let's
sorry,
just
guys.
let's
Yes.
just quickly answer these questions, and then we can enjoy and have a weekend on to ourselves. So the first question is actually from this Usha Devi. She's saying that can I get 482 visa or in the work visa? I'm 55, administrator, medical. I have aged care nursing experience as well. So as you know, for 482, there is no age requirement. But we would need to see, what's your occupation, administrator, medical. There is you could be a, primary medical center organization holder or something. So we will need to see what kind of occupation do you have, and what exactly, how many years of experience do you have, whether you would actually have an employer. You can get the 482 visa as long as you have an employer who's willing to sponsor you. So those are the things that you need to be very careful, Usha. And now this Vaibhav
Well,
Singh is saying that
the
his,
question
yeah.
from Web of saying, hello, my sponsor lodged the file in past February, but haven't heard from Home Affairs yet. I am an offshore applicant, chef occupation. So, what are the possibilities? At the time of lodging file, my PT result was valid, but in upcoming December, it's going to be expired. Do I need to attempt another exam or not?
So Vaibhav, look, if your nomination, are you aware if the nomination has been approved? And if your nomination has been approved, then 482 visa, um, it shouldn't take too long. But the problem with that is, because you are actually offshore and your occupation is not in the priority list, you would actually have to seek a travel exemption. And it is very highly unlikely that you will actually be able to obtain a successful travel exemption in the current scenario, because of your occupation as well. And in regards to your PT result as well, it was valid at the time of application, but they actually want to see whether it's valid at the time of decision as well. So if the case officer is satisfied with the result that you have already provided previously, they would actually finalize your visa. But if they do need further information, they would certainly would actually contact you and ask you for to provide a new PT result, and they will probably give you enough time for you to actually provide that kind of information as well.
The question is from Imran Bajwa. Hi, sir. When 190 NSW is expected to be started?
Imran, well, this is the kind of questions, when I wish New South Wales themselves, they know when to start this kind of when they should start their nomination application. So they said they will start, but they haven't actually given out any dates. Not even any other states as well. Even Victoria, South Australia, and Western Australia, they have not published any of those details. But South Australia did publish this information on their website, that first they said they will be providing this, publishing this information by the end of October, but then they pushed it till the November. So, as you can see, they said that by the end of November. That's what South Australia said. So what I would tell you is, wait until then, maybe until mid-November, and then probably we would have a response by then.
Okay. The next question is from Nisansala Ratnasinghe. If someone work on 407 visa, can that experience be used to claim points for GSM visas?
So Nisansala, it's a very good question. A lot of people do actually have doubts in regards to this as well. As you know, that 407 is a training visa. What does it means? That you actually have a skills gap, that you're not up to the required skill level. So in some circumstances, department, they actually do refuse this experience, the points claim on this GS on 407 visa. So what the best scenario you can do is, you can get that experience assessed by the assessment authority, and if they do assess that experience to be appropriate skill level, then yes, then the department do happily accept those kind of experience gained as well.
Okay. That's actually a very, very good information, Saurabh. Thank you very much. Okay, last question from my side.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What do you require? What is actually required for a bald head?
Oh, what is required for a bald head?
Yes.
Probably I
Let me just rephrase it. What's good for a bald head?
okay. So probably you can actually get a 407 training visa. So someone to actually upskill your head to get some more hair on it.
Well, thank you very, very much, viewers. This is the way we actually need to entertain as well to our viewers, because sometimes it's very monotonous to talk about just visas, visas, visas. Right.
Absolutely.
See you next Friday. And the answer of that question, Saurabh actually said, yes, what is actually good to have on a bald head? Just some hair, so I can do like
Yeah,
this.
like this. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Ankur. Thank you,
And
viewers. And we will certainly see you next Friday.
see you next Friday. Done.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.